Hey everyone, happy Halloween. Welcome to the Retro Gamers Podcast, episode number 204. Dante here.
And Anthony here.
And I'm not even supposed to be here today. Wrong movie.
37.
Yes, nice. Good pull. So this is my extent of my Halloween costume this year. Movie
Very nice.
employee. I wore this probably about 11 years ago, probably when the movie came out. So this does not close anymore, but
Nice.
it's the closest thing I got right now to a costume.
And this is the extent of my costume for this year, which is a Zelda T-shirt that I pretty much wear anytime I want. So.
There you go. I like it. As a podcaster,
I'm not a very costume-oriented person.
no, neither am I. Honestly, this was literally. I'm like, oh, I still have this. Okay, and I was shocked I even still have the visor. So I'm happy.
But as long as you're happy, that's what it is at the end of the day.
A signed Iron Bob Pop from Kevin Smith.
Very nice.
That's like my sixth.
You should be proud.
It's my sixth Kevin Smith autograph at this point.
Oh,
it
good
means
Lord.
nothing. He signs everything. It's like Babe Ruth. He signs everything,
Yep.
which means it's worthless other than sentimental.
I was going to say, I think it dropped in value when he signed it.
Basically. All right, so this week, actually, we have a good topic this week. We're going to talk about Ant, a topic that when you mentioned it, I'm like, I don't know if I could be part of this conversation.
I know. That's why I wanted it.
So you can dominate the topic here.
No, I was actually more happy that I thought of a topic that we haven't covered in 203 previous episodes.
Pretty sure we haven't talked about this. You're right.
No, we definitely have not.
All right. So we're going to talk about, it's Halloween and everyone's all scary and spooky and it's the end of the month. So we're going to talk about the end of video games.
Yes, and when we say the end of video games, we're not talking about games that were
Done.
Destroyed necessarily, but we're talking about some of our favorite video game endings.
The crash is upon us again.
Basically, and Larry will talk about all three of his, since that's how many games he's beaten.
To be fair, I did pull out a good number that you can count on two hands of games that I have legitimately and my list is games that I've beaten and kind of just like, what, somebody's had some good endings, some of them did not, but we got some good and a couple of interesting
Well, I mean,
mentions.
You've beaten 6 games this year from our contest.
None of them had endings that I even remember. I got news for you. I don't even remember what games I beat.
I remember Where's Waldo is on the list, and that just says it all.
That has a boring ending, trust me.
I'm sure it does. Great, you found him. The end.
That's basically about it. All right, so let's get into this bad boy. And again, I know we're going to have some crossovers and stuff. I guess I'll probably get right into it. The one I remember the most, the one that's most iconic to me, and the first game I've ever beaten.
Ooh.
And that was Contra.
Of course.
One of my favorite games. Probably
with the code.
Yes, back then, yes. As an adult, I've since beaten it without. But when I remember that night fondly, I was so excited. I was freaking out. We got, pizza or something that night where, normally we weren't ordering out like that. So it was just this hoopla. And I just remember the cinematics of that ending. First of all, if you play Contra, the Famicom version, there's a lot more cinematic to the game.
Yes.
Gameplay is the exact same, basically, but like all the cutscenes and everything are completely different. But just the ending to Contra, you get it to that last boss, which is a giant beating heart. Mm-hmm. You get past
Not gross at all.
No, none whatsoever. You got like the alien-like, things coming at you. You finally get past that heart. You get this wonderful music that Konami was able to put together for Contra, and then you just see the island that you started on, that epic first level of Contra, finally just blowing up as you're flying away in the helicopter. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, credits roll. Just that feeling of accomplishment, like the first time. That's what I'm talking about. The very first time I accomplished something in a video game. That's going to stick with me forever. Some of these other ones I had to look up again. But Contra always sticks with me on that one.
Yeah, it's funny. Just talking about that, like I had to look up all of the endings that I remembered in my head in terms of game, like my favorite games that I've beaten.
Yeah.
But I had to go back and look at the endings because I'm like, for most of them that I remember, the endings are a little more detailed than like the simple like Super Mario Brothers something like that, or Contra. But I remember also beating Contra as a kid. Again with the Konami code. Yeah, again as a kid
back then,
couldn't beat it. You couldn't beat it.
No,
without
not
the
at all.
Konami code. So
it was really cool to to go back to that. And like you said, you see the helicopter leaving and everything. And if you had watched the movie, like if you watched the movie Commando back then, it kind of reminded me of that movie when I saw it.
Get to the chopper.
Get to the chopper.
I almost that was from Commando. I always forget.
I don't know. That was not from Commando.
Oh, okay. All right. But yes, no, you're right. Very well. I mean, let's face facts. The cover of Contra is Schwarzenegger and Stallone. So
yeah, it's Rambo and Commando.
Exactly. Rambo and Commando. I like that.
See, that would have been a great game.
That would have been an awesome game and probably one of the best crossovers since Battletoads Double Dragon.
Right? Well, imagine if they made a movie.
That's
Rambo
what I'm saying.
Commando. Yeah. Actually, here, I'll add more to it. Rambo and Commando, the musical.
There's a video of Stallone singing in some Western. It's out there. Man.
I don't think Schwarzenegger has ever sang, and let's leave it at that.
He didn't sing in Batman Forever?
No.
But he was Mr. Freeze.
No, I just remember. Why don't you cheer?
I used to see you.
So bad. So bad.
I love that movie. Now, just real quick, I just want to mention this.
So, talking about a movie that ends a franchise.
Blame that on Schumacher. So as iconic as Contra was with the ending, Super C wasn't as over the top with the ending. You get to the final boss, you beat it. Spoiler alerts, I guess, on all of these. Get to the final boss, you beat it, and then just to a cutscene of just a mountain background, the helicopter just hovering over. It wasn't as, to me, quote unquote iconic. I don't think Contra's ending is iconic, but just like how it sticks within your memory.
Yeah.
I mean, the only cool thing was like, all right, Super C, like the Konami logo, like that. Kind of the first time you really got to see like that Konami logo in color on a video game. I was like, all right, that's kind of cool. But Contra definitely, I think, is the way to go between those two games in that series.
Yeah, no, I'll agree with you on that. Well, granted, I think the first Contra's the only one I've beaten, so that would be why.
You never beat Super C? I thought you did. I mean, I guess not. All right, well, that's one.
No, I'll be honest with you. My first real dance with Super C was when I downloaded the collection on my PS4.
Really? Actually, that shocks me. Okay, I could have sworn maybe you've played.
No,
it before.
Contra. I only remember. I only owned and played the original Contra when I was growing up. So Super C just was.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know what it was. I never. Either I didn't know there were other Contra games back then, or I just I beat that one over and over again, and that was it.
Fair enough. All right. Sounds cool.
All right. So you want me to?
Yeah. You go
back
and
and forth.
Usual bounce back.
So I tried to, with my list, I tried to look up certain ones, and then I'm like, oh, you know me, it's like I'll go in order because that's what I do.
Yeah.
But I was trying to think of like really, and again, you can go through franchise endings and stuff like that, or you can just pick one specific game. Going on the NES, one of the most iconic endings for me, or one of my favorite endings, I should say, would be in the Castlevania series. And and for me, Simon's Quest always sticks out to me as much as you hate it. But even the first ending, like with the castle, like I don't know if you remember the castle kind of just being imploding, and
I've beaten none of them.
Oh, okay. Well,
the closest
played them like a million times.
This is true, and I suck at them.
Okay.
The closest I've come was Symphony of the Night. Even then, I haven't gotten the true
Symphony
ending.
of the Night has such a good ending. But on NES, like the first one, like the castle kind of sinks into the ground and all that stuff, which is really cool. But for me, I love the ending for Castlevania 2, and the reason why I say this is because there were actually 3 endings to Castlevania 2.
Yes,
depending on how quickly you beat the game, how if you collected everything and stuff like that. So it was really cool. And if you go watch them on YouTube, people have all this stuff up. But depending on how you did in the game, you had 3 possible endings. The first one was just a simple black and white screen of Dracula's grave with text, which was cool. The second one was in color, and Simon is at the gravesite, but then you find out in the description of the ending that Simon actually dies.
Ooh.
So he like succumbed to his wounds after the battle with Dracula, after killing Dracula. And then in the third ending, you get the same story, except Simon survives. He leaves the grave, and then a hand comes up out of the grave. And that's how they end Castlevania. That's the best ending in Castlevania too. So just loved getting those different endings, because I've beaten that game multiple times, and I have gotten all 3 endings, which is kind of cool.
For those listening, I have actually just one of the purchases I'll talk about later, a Simon Belmont Amiibo, which is actually really cool looking.
Are Amiibos still active?
Mostly really just for Super Smash Brothers.
Okay.
But still, I collect them now at this point. One of the few
things, they look cool.
They're all like hand painted, I think.
My problem with those is I would have nowhere to put them.
I have nowhere to put them right now. I hate to say it, they're in a bag.
That's kind of sad.
Very sad.
And maybe you should sell some pops and make an Amiibo shelf.
Nope. The Amiibo would go first.
Wow.
Admittedly.
Bold statement.
Yeah, so I've never. Yeah, no, ghosts.
You just made me realize that. Little side note, talking about little figurines. Remember Hero Clicks?
Well, please. Do you still have yours?
I just sold them.
Really?
Like 2 weeks ago.
Wow! Oh, wow! Just a lot of them.
Yeah, I just sold the whole thing. Yeah, I've been carrying them around ever since we played, and even before I left LA, I was like, I'm like, I love these things. I'm like, but I haven't taken them out since we stopped playing. Yeah. Why am I carrying them everywhere? I'm not waiting for them to increase in any type of value or anything. They're just sitting there. So.
Do they even? Like, did they have a or you just kind of?
They did for a while.
In the beginning, they did because of the uniques.
Right in the beginning, they did, but now, like, I looked them up and I'm like, it's not worth the effort to try and sell them all separately. So I was just like, I threw them up. Somebody bought them on. I don't remember if it was eBay or Facebook Marketplace, and I'm like, all right, good. I go, because it was a big, heavy thing that I had.
No, yeah, it was a lot, and a couple of them were mine that you stole.
Only one was, and I didn't steal it.
And here
it's funny.
Going.
I was gonna take him out of the box and send it back to you, but I forgot when I packed it.
Cold guy, look, do me a favor. I just want one.
I just need one of those figures back. So they are finally gone.
Oh, all right. End of an era.
It is, but at the same time, I'm like, what was I going to do?
Hey,
with
look,
them?
I agree with you. I agree. And my
dryer. Anyway, getting back to video games.
My dryer
Castlevania
stopped, and now I can hear things. Castlevania. Have you beaten any other Castlevania games?
So I've beaten 1 and 2. I've beaten Rondo of Blood.
Yes.
And Symphony of the Night.
All right.
I've never beaten 3.
No, neither have I, and I love 3.
Yeah, 3 is awesome, but for some odd reason. And it's funny, when I look in my NES collection, I have 2 copies of 2, 1 copy of 3, right? What? Yeah, I have 1 copy of 3, but I don't have the first game.
Really?
I don't have the original. Yeah, I didn't realize it until I put all my games out. I said, where's Castlevania 1? And I'm like, oh, crap, I don't have it.
What, you bought Castlevania 2 thinking it was 1? Why do you have 2 copies of 2?
Because I accidentally bought it thinking I didn't have it, and then I came home and I was like, this is why you should look at the list on your app.
I need to desperately catalog everything.
No, and that's the thing. It's like, I have that thing on my app, and then sometimes when I would go shopping, like I remember when I bought 2, I went to the store, Gamers Paradise in Vegas, and I saw it sitting there, and instead of pulling out my phone to check, I just knew in my head, I'm like, I definitely don't have this. I'm going to buy it. And then I bought it and brought it home, and I'm like, oh, I'm stupid.
Don't. Yeah, every time I'm at Game On, I'm like, I don't know if I have this now. So
yeah, you definitely need you need the collective thing. I love that app. It's amazing.
No, I know. What's it called again?
It is called
Collectors with a Z?
Yeah, it's CLZ Games. I have it for games and they have 2 different ones, games and comic books. Yeah. They also have one for DVDs if you still collect movies.
I don't even know what those are.
Yeah, I know you don't. But yeah, so my biggest problem is whenever I buy a game, I forget now to put it in. But like when you buy new games, all you got to do is scan the barcode.
Exactly.
And it's so easy, which is great.
All right. Well, Castlevania does at some point, hopefully, because I'd like to beat 3. I'd like to beat Bloodlines.
Bloodlines. Did I finish Bloodlines?
I definitely never finished Bloodlines.
I don't think I did. I still have my original Bloodlines on Genesis.
I don't have my original, but I had at one point I owned it. I own it again, a physical copy. That's also available on that Castlevania collection, available on the current consoles. Sticking with the theme though of Castle. Oh, by the way, here's a what?
What
is this? Trevor?
Yes. I'm recording.
I think this is Trevor. This is the other amiibo that I picked up.
Yeah, that's Trevor from is that Rondo?
No, probably Castlevania. Yeah.
Oh, Rondo or Bloodlines?
Probably, yeah. Again, it's
very
a
cool.
amiibo.
Looks very cool.
Yeah, no, they're very nice. Sticking with that kind of.
Oh my God, he gets heavier every week.
Stop feeding him. Look at him.
Can't help it.
just hangs there. Doesn't even sit there. Just hangs.
I know. He's like, put me down so you can pet me.
A game that I'd never beaten, but a game that I know is very difficult to beat, and B, to get the ending is ridiculous, is Ghosts and Goblins on the NES.
I've never beaten that.
Neither have I. But the problem is, not only is it extremely difficult to get through, but to get the true ending, or I should say to get an ending, you have to go through it twice.
No, see, and that's just like we all know that like games back then were made super difficult because they didn't want you beating them in 10 minutes.
Yep. This is definitely not a 10-minute game, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So like I can think of a few games that I played on Nintendo where I'm like, wait, that's it?
Oh yeah, a lot of short run games.
Yeah, a lot of short run. But yeah, I mean that's why they upped the difficulty level on it. But again, it's one of those things where it's like that's the challenge for you to overcome. It's like you have to play it over and over and over again until you pattern it out.
No, but not only that, but literally as soon as you're done, you have to go through the quest all over again. Yep. So basically you have to play it twice through in one sitting.
Yeah, which is crazy.
That's nuts.
Yes.
All right, so another game, probably one of the few Genesis games, talking about never beaten Castlevania Bloodlines. And in my opinion, the greatest RPG of all time. Actually, both 1 and 2 of Shining Force.
Yeah, have you beaten both?
I have beaten both. Yes.
Okay, cool. Yeah, that was the Genesis one that I picked for my list.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Shining Force was amazing. Loved the ending of the first one specifically was awesome because I think it was one of the very few times where I remember beating a game where the hero dies.
Yes, that's what was so...
Oops, spoiler alert.
So epic about it. Yeah. You get to that final boss, I should say, the Dark Dragon. You have your mission, you have your team. You're getting through this epic gameplay that is Shining Force with that strategic moving. And then the story that then plays out. Because, again, I'm not a big RPG player. So this Shining Force was like just an epic run for me in general. The fact that I got through it because it's an RPG, but then to realize that with a lot of these role-playing games, there is like an entire, not just, a princess is in another castle. It is this story to end the game. And your hero takes the Chaos Breaker, right? Yes, the Chaos Breaker. Jams it into the Dark Dragon. And you're right, Ant, the hero dies. Everyone else gets off the island. Egresses off the fortress, I should say. And
well, actually, you egress them.
Well, yes, that's correct.
Like you actually save everybody before you die.
And they talk about that, like where's whatever your name is, where's the hero? Where is he? And you're right. But then because everyone, like with Shining Force, the game starts like the story's being read to you when you're in the beginning of the game and stuff like that. So then the story ends. But does it truly end? Because then the storyteller basically says to you, but we all both know how it ends, hero. As if
she's telling the story to you.
Exactly. Yeah. So a little bit of a confusing ending, but like in a good way. Like, I wonder if it really was, like if it really did happen.
Well, it's not really confusing. It's really like, it's interesting because like there were some games back then that would break the fourth wall.
Yes.
So in other words, like because you are playing as the hero of the game, so they would break the fourth wall and be like, oh, okay. So the indication to me at the end of Shining Force is the hero survives because the hero in the game is actually you.
Exactly.
And the reason why you're not with the other characters in the game at the end is because you're out here in the real world.
Maybe you survived and they all died.
Excuse me.
Gesundheit.
Thank you.
So,
I hope you survived after you finished the game. If you died, that ending would suck.
And the music was epic. Great music.
Yes.
And then like, and then you get that like the cinematic ending, like, just kind of scenes from the fights throughout the game.
Yes.
Just all in all, it's like, it's again, to me, one of the first games where if you just isolate that ending, that's worth just watching just on its own.
It's one of the best role-playing games, in my opinion, of all time.
Now, do you?
I've played several.
Yes, you have. So coming from you, that's a big statement. Mm-hmm. Do you remember the ending to Shining Force 2?
Not off the top of my head, no.
All right, so it ended more on a high note. I guess they didn't want the downer that was the first game, and I feel like the cinematics after the final battle is a lot longer than the first Shining Force.
That I do remember.
But and this I don't remember doing. Obviously I did do because I have beaten Shining Force 2. But I don't remember this part where finally the hero gets back to the castle where the princess is like alive but unconscious in a coma. And then you're given a choice whether or not to kiss her.
And yeah, I remember that.
I just don't remember that part. And then, went in trying to remember and remind myself of all this. When I was watching on YouTube, they selected yes, and then it moved on. So I now want to find what happens if you select no. Game just shuts down and just boots itself out, basically. But I thought that was pretty interesting. Like, you have kind of like that last option that you have to select at the end of the game.
Yeah, which is really cool. I mean, there have been some other game. I can't think of them off the top of my head. I remember playing other games where there was a bit of an interactive ending.
Yeah, and then of course,
well, actually, there's one I'm going to talk about in a few minutes.
Okay, I was going to say real quick, and then of course with Shining Force 2, when you start the game, the story kind of being told to you is done by a witch, and then the witch turns into this maiden or whatever. You free her, and then she goes on. So it's almost like you beat the game at the same time you save the narrator, which is kind of weird in a way. So I thought that was pretty interesting.
Yeah, no, definitely really cool. And again, if you've never played Shining Force, highly recommend it. At least the first two are just awesome. Yeah. And we're maybe our 2021 contest, Larry, can be who can beat the third one the fastest on our Polymegas.
Well, don't start it if you get the system before me.
Well, I make no promises.
Though you already have a Saturn.
Oh, yeah, I should just play it.
What do you got next, my friend?
Okay, so I'm gonna go back to the NES again, because this is probably one of the most well-known endings in the video game history, because of the surprising reveal at the end of it. And I'm talking about Metroid, the very first Metroid.
Yep.
And I mean, who could forget? And I remember when I beat Metroid. It was one of those games that took me forever to beat because I wasn't really good in the whole open world kind of thing. So it took me a long time to get through that. But I remember when I beat it and all of a sudden it's like, wait a minute, as we all know today, Samus is a woman. But on top of that, depending on how you performed in the game, it had multiple endings. So you either revealed, I think in one ending you don't reveal her.
Yeah, I think if you do it too long, you have to beat the game quickly to find out that it.
So in one game she doesn't remove her helmet. Mm-hmm. Another ending, she only removes the helmet, so you see that she's a woman.
Yeah, the long flowing hair and everything.
Right, and then there were two other endings. One of them, she's in like a green kind of dress or like it's a green outfit.
Oh yeah, that's right. I forgot about that one.
Almost looks like a bathing suit.
Yeah,
and then. Another ending, she's in a pink bikini.
Yeah, that I remember, yeah.
And again, this is all depending on, I guess, depending on how well you did, you got to see her. Yeah, you basically got to see her in less clothing.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah, so, but again, just the whole idea of it's one of the most memorable endings in video game history because obviously nobody would ever think, Samus
not back
is a
then,
woman.
not in the 80s. No, you're right. And
no, definitely not. So it was a nice spin on the whole thing.
Definitely.
And to be honest with you, it doesn't matter. But
no, now it doesn't. But back then,
back then it's like, wait a minute,
because all the
how many little boys felt they got cheated?
Exactly. Yeah, basically, and again, sign of the times, whatever. But it was, and I never beat Metroid. Don't get me wrong. So, when I did find out, I guess like in Nintendo Power, I guess, that Samus was a girl, I was like, oh, weird.
Yeah.
Throw it away. No, I'm kidding. I never owned Metroid. But it was just very interesting and a cool spin that Nintendo, will do both hardware and software down the line with a bunch of different stuff. So, but yeah, that's definitely one of those ones where it's so iconic, you don't have to beat the game to know how that ending is and how awesome that ending is.
Exactly.
So, I want to jump over to a series that you're very familiar with, the Legend of Zelda series.
Yep, I haven't brought it up on purpose.
Oh, okay. You want to say that?
No, I figured we would get to it. So go.
Okay. So Zelda, and I picked out really just a couple of games from the Zelda franchise. First of all, the first game, the original Legend of Zelda on NES. The boss battle itself is very unique. Where Ganon is invisible and you have to hit him with a sword, but then you have to specifically hit him with the silver arrow to beat the game. Probably the first time. Ghosts and Goblins kind of takes that a little bit because to beat Ghosts and Goblins, you have to only use a certain weapon in the game. And of course, that's harder to do in Ghosts and Goblins. But I always thought that was really interesting that you had to like hit him with one weapon, then quickly switch to the other or however it was. But what I thought was even more interesting than that, so you beat Ganon. Okay, cool. You go into the next room. If you're moving fast enough and you've never beaten the game before, I think you can die before rescuing the princess because she's blocked by fire. And if you're like down to like half a heart and you don't know, you're just running into the next room, you hit that fire, you're done-ski.
Yeah.
I thought that was ingenious.
Oh yeah, no, it's awesome. It's like, oh, psych, you're not going to get her. She's
basically
you burn to death in front of her.
It's kind of like Splatterhouse kind of does that. Every time you have a boss battle, the boss has one more shot at you to kill you after you're done. So that was, and then you just shoot the fire with the sword or whatever, and then the game's over. But Ant, let me ask you, when you got to that point, did you even realize that maybe you had to like were you sitting there going, how am I supposed to get around the fire? Like, did it occur to you to hit it with the sword?
Yeah, I mean, I never died in the fire, but the fire, I mean, it just became like an obvious thing only because it's like, okay, I can't get through the fire. What do I do? Yeah. And you look through all of your, you look through your weapons, your inventory, and it's like, well, all right. And then you just try different things, eventually if you try the sword first, which I think I even did.
Probably, yeah.
I mean, that just solves all the problem. And then there were two little fires on the left and the right of her as well. So I would just go and stab those two. I was just like, get rid of all the fire, put the fire out. And now it's like, hey, I saved you.
All fire gone. Fire bad.
Fire bad. Fire die.
So I thought that was a pretty interesting twist on that one. Yep. But what's your favorite Zelda ending?
Yeah, see, I didn't go back to the original one because let's face it, like a lot of NES games, like the endings are really, really short. It's usually a text screen where it's like, absolutely. Oh, you saved Hyrule is safe again. Yay. But if I had to pick one Zelda game, and that's what I tried to do, pick one Zelda game for the best ending, it's got to be Ocarina of Time.
Okay, yes.
Just has to be.
Yep.
You get, after you beat Ganondorf, the seven sages come out, they seal him into the evil realm. And then you're with Zelda and, Zelda thanks you and all that stuff. And then she tells you it's like to keep Ganondorf contained, you have to return the Master Sword to the forest. Because remember, you pulled the Master Sword out of the forest. Or the woods. Was it the Lost Woods?
Yeah. It was something like that, yeah.
So, but the cool thing about it is that if you remember, the whole, like, part of the appeal of Ocarina of Time was you start as a kid, but when you pull out the Master Sword, you become an adult.
Yes.
So there's like a bit of time.
It was in the time. It was in the time chambers or whatever the hell it was.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah. Oh, that's right. It was in the. So when you
Unfun gamer, I'm waiting to hear from you about this whole segment. Don't worry.
Yeah, exactly. See, the thing is, it's like part of it is like just running through our memories and trying to remember all this stuff. Even though I watched them back, it's like, yeah, it's like I get it confused because there were other ones where you put it in the forest. This one was in the Anyway, so when you put the sword back in, time reverses back to when you're a kid, and you're a kid once again. So I just remember how epic that ending was to me, and absolutely by far stands out. And on top of that, now when you look back on that ending, it holds a lot more value to it in a way because they used Ocarina of Time for Breath of the Wild.
Yes, and I have not gotten far at all in Breath of the Wild.
Oh man, Breath of the Wild! Wow, like really, like I hate picking a newer game and saying it could arguably be the best game in the franchise, but I can argue Breath of the Wild is the best game in the franchise because it's just the whole open world format. The ending, like the boss battle, like people complain, like saying, "Oh, you know what? It's easy to beat and everything like that." I'd be like, I didn't think it was that easy to beat, and to be honest with you, I thought it was an amazing ending.
Okay.
So amazing battle. The ending itself, not the best ending in a Zelda franchise, but
very
still,
good.
Breath of the Wild is great.
Right.
However, Ocarina of Time is definitely top of my list for best Zelda endings. What about you?
I liked Ocarina of Time. Yes, the ending was really good. You know, especially after that battle with Ganondorf and just getting through everything. You know, the graphics of the N64 in the mid '90s, late '90s. But to me, it always felt open ended, which it kind of was. Because then you lead to Majora's Mask and stuff. But here's the thing that was confusing. Maybe you can straighten it out as well. And it reminded me again when I went back and watched the ending. So Ganondorf is being sent off into the Phantom Zone. And he says something. Well, you don't really see anyone on camera, so you don't know if it's Ganondorf or maybe Zelda saying it. But basically, Ganondorf's like, I will be back. Your ancestors are in trouble, blah, blah, blah. And then it just goes on a blank screen. It goes, for as long as I have the Triforce of Power, ... And it kind of reminded me when I played the game originally. Like, did that mean that Ganondorf still had the Triforce of Power? And that's what eventually led to all... Because I think Ocarina of Time, isn't that like the first one in the in the timeline?
I'm
throwing that out there. Trust me, I have no idea about the Zelda.
No, see, now I gotta pull out a book.
Oh, no, hold on. I got Wikipedia. I can figure it out here.
Yeah, but no. Look. Hello, Hyrule Historia.
I'm sorry, I didn't realize you had it on hand.
I always have this book on hand. Are you crazy?
There's like 12 of those books.
There are 3, and they are the colors red, green, and blue. So let's see. There is a
There's got to be
somewhere in here. There is a chronology of the games. There we go, page 68. Look, we're doing this live, everybody. Yep. We're looking this up.
Do it live.
Oh, there's my bookmark. Okay.
So you find it bookmarks. You find in receipts.
That's what I do.
What's the matter with you?
We all know this.
Why is there no?
Okay, so no. That's right. The first game is Skyward Sword.
Oh, that's right. Right. Yes.
Yeah. So Skyward Sword is first. Then Ocarina is actually fourth.
Oh, okay.
So you got Skyward Sword, then the Minish Cap, then Four Swords Adventure, then Ocarina.
Okay. Minish Cap is awesome on Game Boy Advance.
So the reason why Ganondorf says, as long as I have the Triforce of Power, is because after that moment, depending on which way you go, because remember, like, the thing about Zelda is, I don't know if you can see this.
Yeah, we can see that.
It branches into 3 different, after Ocarina of Time, it branches into 3 different options. One is the option where Link is defeated in Ocarina. And then there are 2 other options in when Link wins. One is the Sacred Realm remains protected, meaning or Ganondorf is sealed. So there are 2 different ways to go.
I think I have that book as well. I may have to break that out.
Yeah. So, and it's funny too, because when you look at the timeline for this, and this was always what, I'm sorry, we're veering off into Zelda verse. What I love about this timeline is that the first 2 games that came out, Legend of Zelda and Legend of Zelda 2 Adventures of Link, they're like the last games on the list for the side where Link is defeated in Ocarina of Time.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, so like they're like the last two in that storyline, which is kind of cool. Because in that storyline, it's Link to the Past, Oracle of Ages and Seasons, Link's Awakening, and then the original Legend of Zelda and Adventures of Link.
Actually, it's funny how it almost, not I mean in a bad way, but kind of like degrades. So those are all the Game Boy games and then the 8-bit games.
Yeah, because like trying to find where every game goes. And now what's interesting in this now is it'll be interesting to see where they decide to put
Breath of the Wild?
Breath of the Wild, because Breath of the Wild takes place 100 years after Ocarina. So, yeah, just really
interesting.
Yeah,
interesting.
no, it's all really interesting. So yeah, that was our parlay into the Zeldaverse, courtesy of Hyrule Historia. Thank you.
One thing to say real quick, just as far as a cinematic, and I haven't seen Breath of the Wild's ending, but as far as a cinematic viewing, the remake of Link's Awakening on Switch was awesome to watch.
Yeah, I still have to finish that.
You still haven't beaten it yet?
No, I mean, once I stopped traveling for work, my Switch has just kind of been collecting dust, and I apologize to it. I am sorry.
Yeah, so that one's just cool just to watch. All right, cool.
I'll get back to it. I still got to finish Oracle of Ages too.
This is true. This is very true. All right, let's jump away from Nintendo just for a moment.
Please.
And I think on the Dreamcast, probably one of the, best games, but I got to admit, actually I'm going to go in a different direction on probably not as memorable of an ending, which I was shocked at. That's why I'm mentioning this. Sonic Adventures.
Yes.
Now,
did you beat it with 100% on all the characters?
That's what I was going to say. Yes, there are multiple endings. I get it. But even like the original, just the regular straight up ending, it just ends. Like, there's really not much to it. You get a little cinematic of them flying around or whatever, but it just ends. And I always thought, there's a great song that's played, to show off the power of the Dreamcast as far as the audio is concerned. Not as good as Sonic Boom, but great song. But it just kind of ended, and I was always disappointed on that one.
Yeah, I think they had put so much work into how awesome that game was. You do feel a little cheated, but again, I think you get the better ending when you complete everything.
Probably, and the same thing with the Chaos. If you get all the Chaos Emeralds, I get it.
Yeah, it's that type of game where you got to put in the work.
So, but I just thought I'd share that because that one I was always like, such a great game, but a meh ending.
I'm trying to think of a Dreamcast game I have which had a really great ending, but I can't really pinpoint one. Like Resident Evil 3, I played on Dreamcast and I never finished it. I got to Nemesis and I just couldn't kill him. But actually, that's a game I should just go back to add to our contest.
Do it, yeah. Why not?
Right at the end.
Dreamcast counts.
Now, Resident Evil Code Veronica though. That had a solid ending on the Dreamcast, if I remember correctly. And then the only other one that pops in my head is Space Channel 5, but that's just a silly musical.
Wait for the remake. Ending. Wait for the remake.
I ordered it.
Yeah, I know. That's what I'm saying. Wait for the remake. All right.
So that was the Dreamcast.
Cool.
One of the other ones I want to throw out there, and this is jumping back to Nintendo, but it's not your typical Super Nintendo game.
Was that the
or in terms of I'm not talking Mario or any of the other franchises. I'm talking about one of the most iconic RPGs of all time, if not the most iconic RPG of all time. And we're talking about Chrono Trigger.
Oh,
Chrono Trigger is a bear to get through, and I'm not saying bear in the sense of it's really hard. It's just really long. You put in a lot of hours into that game, and the coolest thing about that game is, I think there are 10 different endings, 10 or 12. I can't remember how many there are. So literally everything that you do throughout the game and the choices you make throughout the game and where you go, because there are certain points in the game where you choose where you go, will dictate what kind of ending you get. So I don't know if I've ever gotten the definitive ending because I've only beaten it. I've definitely only beaten it once, and I'm pretty sure it's not the definitive ending because when I looked it up on YouTube, I remember watching the ending and I'm like, this looks familiar, but not exactly what I got.
That's not where I'm going with this.
Yeah, but the whole idea of Chrono saving the past, present, and the future of the kingdom, with all of his friends, and then at the end, like all of the friends he's made along the way have to go back to their times where they, where he basically pulled them out from to help with the mission. Just really, really cool, and overall, absolutely a phenomenal game. And just the fact that they thought highly enough of it to give you so many different options for an ending to let you, because RPGs rarely give you the option to go back and play them again.
Yeah, it's tough. The replay values are tough on an RPG because they're so daunting.
Yeah, exactly. So I found this one interesting because I'm like, they go, this is a daunting game, but they give you the option to go back and play it to see all the different endings, to experience all the different endings. But for me, that was just really cool.
Alrighty. It's for me, again, the RPGs, I get how they can have awesome endings. Like, I can only imagine how Final Fantasy VII ended.
Yes.
But
we'll talk about that shortly.
Well, for me, kind of the last one that I can even mention firsthand, I'm sorry, just give me 2 seconds, is the Super Mario Brothers series.
I was just going to say, you haven't touched on Mario yet.
Because each one is so different, and each one has its own story behind the story. Like the first one, Super Mario Brothers. Our princess is in another castle. Princess is in another castle. You hear that 7 times from 7 different mushrooms. Correct. So finally, when you get to that last level, and probably at that time not even really realizing there's only 8 worlds in the game anyway, you finally get to it, and thank you, Mario, yada yada yada. All it was, look, the ending itself, it's only iconic because it's Super Mario Brothers. Beyond that, it's nothing, as far as what they present to you. But it's a sign of accomplishment. I'm done with the game. You know what I mean? Done. Super Mario Brothers 2 ends, and it's Mario kind of waking up. Then you're like, wait a minute, was this whole game a dream? And this is years later we get the answers from Miyamoto. But at the time, you're like, oh, so did any of this really take place? And then with Super Mario Brothers 3, which, starts off with a curtain raising and then, curtain lower. Like, it's a play. But the part I like about Super Mario Brothers 3 is, and again, visually, none of them are going to knock your socks off. No. But it was a nice callback to 1 because Peach is like, oh, our princess is in another castle. Just kidding. At which point I would have been like, you know what? Have a good day.
I would. You know what I would have done? I would have locked her back in that room and just moved on. Be like, enjoy
Bowser, she's all yours.
Yeah. Enjoy life with Bowser.
So, again, not cinematically speaking, nothing to cry home about, but just the meanings behind them, I thought were all special in their own way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, and I agree with you on that. I mean, and to your point, the way you laid it out, how each one was different in the sense of the first Mario game is an actual adventure, the second one's more of a dream, and the third one is a play.
Exactly.
So
exactly,
it was a cool way for them to do something different with each one of them, But then, obviously, I'm sure you're going to get to Super Mario World.
Well, I kind of skipped over those. Because
I did as well, because I kind of went to Mario 64.
Me too. Yeah. Nothing wrong in Super Mario World. It's just Super Mario 64, I remember the ending, again, kind of like ho-hum. It wasn't really anything to it. It was just more like, hey, look, this is the N64. Here's what we could do. And to me, the ending wasn't even that iconic like the first 3 games were. She goes and bakes a cake for him. All right.
Yeah, that was my whole thing about it too. It's like, wait, I went through all of this for a cake? I was like, I could have just gone to the store.
Honestly.
Why do I need your cake? Oh, wait a minute.
Wait.
What are you implying?
Double entendre. But still, it was kind of like meh on a really awesome game. Mm-hmm. Maybe they changed the ending in 3D All-Stars.
I agree with that. I don't know. To me, have you finished Odyssey?
I don't know. I definitely don't have 999 moons.
But did you get the ending?
Here's the thing. I don't know which ending is the ending because I'm on the moon again, but I'm on that, and I haven't played it in months, that daunting long level that's like a little bit of every level and there's no save points. Mm-hmm. Is the ending after that, I assume?
Yep.
Okay, then no, I haven't gotten to it yet.
Okay, yeah. So the ending in that one, like to me, it was like it was such a smart ending.
Okay.
That I loved it. Like it was the first Mario game where I'm like, I really remember the ending because of what they did. It was like very it was very on point for the times, let's say.
Okay, interesting.
So I highly recommend finishing Odyssey and checking out that ending. I won't give it away here since it's a newer game and some people may actually still want to play it.
I can't get through that darn level, but
once you get through it, you'll be happy when you see the ending, and I'm sure it'll give you a laugh.
Fair enough. All right, cool.
But it was really well done.
Okay.
But then the last one that I had on my list, which you actually already brought up, was the definitive RPG for me on the PlayStation, and one of the best games I've ever played through, of course, which is Final Fantasy VII. And I'm still working on the remake. I actually just got back to it after I took a couple months off. And the remake is nothing to sneeze at. It's just amazing, absolutely beautiful to play through and everything. I will say that just to touch on it really quickly, the one thing that kind of turns me slightly away from current games that are considered RPGs is how they feel more linear than anything else.
Like in other words, you're just going straight forward.
Yeah,
like there's no consequences.
They give you side quests to do, but the side quests aren't like, they're not anything ridiculously complicated. It's because it's one of the things that we've talked about before, where it's like there's so much focus on look how pretty the game is that I feel like when you get down to the actual story in and of itself, everything feels just kind of like straightforward. Now, even despite that, the story is fantastic because I love the original story. The story is fantastic and they do everything well. It's just that now I recognize that when I play these games. Mm-hmm. So, but again, there's nothing against it. I still love the game. But the original Final Fantasy, go ahead. You were saying?
No, I was going to ask, how, I mean, look, the original, I'm guessing the remake, maybe they changed a tad on how it's presented, but how was the ending presented for the original Final Fantasy VII on the PlayStation? Like how was that, like cinematically speaking? And
cinematically for the original Final Fantasy VII, it was like, I mean, epic to me was, just an understatement when I got to witness that. Because again, I don't know how the remake ends because I haven't gotten there yet.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah, I don't know how the remake ends.
Yeah.
But in the original ending, it's like after you defeat Sephiroth and Jenova or whatever that Jenova. I want to say Jehovah.
That's another game. That's a totally another game.
Bible games. When you beat the big bad, it's like there's this huge epic ending where there's a meteor that's like crashing down on Midgar, and the meteor still looks like it's gonna destroy the whole city, and they think all is lost. What are they gonna do? And then all of a sudden, like these green waves of light come out and start like attacking the meteor and help disintegrating it, and at first you don't know what it is, and it's actually the planet. The energy from the planet is saving Midgar from destruction. And then you get an image of Aerith. Now for people who don't know, again, spoiler if you've never played the original Final Fantasy VII, Aerith is killed right at the end of the first disc. You go through all these adventures with her, and she gets murdered right in front of you. And it's probably one of the saddest moments I've ever seen in a video game. Yep. And then, of course, they pay it back at the ending as like, because like her spirit, her being has become part of the planet, and she's one. She in essence, like she's the one that helps to save Midgar in the end. It's just such a beautiful ending. And probably one of the best endings I've ever seen in a video game.
And it's fun, that theme, sounds like it crossed over into the movie Final Fantasy Spirits Within, which I think came out shortly after Final Fantasy. Well, maybe not shortly after, but came out.
It came out after, yeah.
Yeah, and because you're talking about like that, I forget what they called it in the movie. But it's basically the planet's essence that they were looking for. What the hell did they call it? I forgot. But in any event,
what they call it.
And that kind of seems like that running arc, which seems really interesting. So that's like one I would go back. No disrespect to Final Fantasy VII, I probably won't play through the original one. I have the remake. I'll play through that because I like the gameplay. But I would go back and watch the original ending to Final Fantasy VII on YouTube.
Yeah, and I highly recommend it just to watch it, or just go and look for. It's probably going to be like watching a movie, but
yeah, totally.
I'm sure somebody's got all the Final Fantasy VII cutscenes, so you can just watch them through. That's
what I did with the first Injustice game. The first DC Injustice, it's like an hour and a half of just the cutscenes, and like it took me a little to realize that they edited the fight scenes, the actual gameplay. I'm like, wow, this guy's blowing through this game with ease. But just watch all the cutscenes. I was like, oh, this is awesome by itself as just a movie. So, all right, and I mean, I that's pretty much all I got on my end.
Cool.
And let us know, as always. Please chime in. Let us know some of your favorite endings, some of the most memorable endings, maybe one that brought a tear to your eye. And let us know in the comments on YouTube, the comments on Instagram, the comments on Facebook, just the comments everywhere. And a little bit we'll remind you where you can find us. But before we wrap up, I made a trip to GameStop. Game On.
I was just going to say GameStop.
No.
You don't go to GameStop.
I don't even know if they're still open.
You went to Game On and you purchased stuff? No. You never do that.
Oh, please wait till you see. Well, first of all, the first one I purchased wasn't mine. So
that's very true. Yeah. So you picked up something for me.
I did, yes. And it's going to be on its way at some point this week.
Yes.
There we go. Yeah.
Amazing Smile. Yes, I've been wanting that game for a long time, and the fact that they got it all pretty and complete is awesome.
Even still got the
the foam.
The foam.
You need the foam.
An old that's probably a GameStop pricing originally.
Very nice.
But so very cool stuff. Very cool stuff. So is that one of your cats whining?
That is my cat snoring in the window.
Wow.
I know. I heard it through the headphone and I had to turn.
I heard it too. That's why I heard it before.
Yeah. Yeah. She snores so loud.
Put that cat on some dietary restrictions, for God's sake.
She's small.
That's small. That's the other one?
It's the small cat. The fat one doesn't snore.
Shocking. And then okay. I gotta wipe that down. Okay. I took the prices off. That's why.
Okay.
And then I picked up a couple of games. One for the Sega CD. I've been waiting for this one. Sylphid.
Oh, I was waiting for you to pick that up.
Oh, I can't wait. It's an awesome shooter.
Nice.
Shoot 'em up. And again, I also have the open.
You got the foam.
The foam.
Very important.
Very cool. And then I bought this game.
What else did you buy for yourself?
Which the history behind it is quite interesting. In fact, I'm going to start a message to Anthony because, again, out of respect for myself and the store, I don't like to give out prices, but I will text Anthony, or at least message him on Facebook, the price. I'm not going to send it yet.
$1,000.
That is amazing, right? No, but there are some games worth that. It's a game for the PlayStation. Raystorm.
Very nice.
From Working Designs.
Okay.
It's a shoot 'em up.
Not surprising. You love those.
I love them. And apparently this is a signature series, if that means anything.
I see that.
You
can't win $10,000.
I cannot win the $10,000 anymore. I did demo. I tried the game out at Game On. Game is awesome. 2-player is phenomenal.
Oh, cool.
But apparently this is a hard to find game. So at that point, I am going to hit the enter button, and I know Anthony will not blurt this out, but still. And that's less than what it's going for.
That's less than what it's going for. Where did you send the message?
Facebook.
Why would you do that?
Because you always message me on Facebook Messenger.
Okay, got it. All right. Wow. Okay. That's,
I know. Now that I think about it, I should have just texted you.
Yes. But, okay. Good to know.
So, it's a pricier game than normal. And when he told me about this about 2 months ago, every time I go in the store, I just stand in front of the glass and just stare at it. You know, kind of like Wayne when he's looking at the guitar in Wayne's World.
Yep.
You know? And then finally I'm like, you know what? You know, I had some money saved up and everything. Let me just pull the trigger.
You broke the piggy bank.
Now I own Raystorm. So
nice. Well, congratulations. Look, picking up a rare game every once in a while is a cool thing when you're collecting. So
yes, it just has to be once in a while.
Yes.
Probably now that would be a third game for the PlayStation that I've bought that is around that price, maybe a little lower.
Okay.
So,
well,
interesting.
Very
Watch it not
interesting.
play. Watch it not play in the Polymega.
Yeah, I was just going to say, you're going to put it in and it's not going to recognize it.
And then the final thing, I pre-ordered this yesterday. I kind of forgot it was going on pre-order. Again, through Strictly Limited Games.
Okay.
One of these, companies that do these short run games, but they do them properly. Over in England or somewhere in Europe, they have put out this is now their third different version of Darius.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Epic shoot 'em up. Again, we talked about it before. It's like a 3-screen arcade machine.
Okay.
That's how big this game is. I have the arcade and the console versions downloaded on the Switch. And this company, Strictly Limited, has now got me purchasing physical copy games. Because I can't guarantee if they're going to come out digitally.
Yeah, exactly.
So what I did was I had ordered... let me just go to my list here. Here we go. So I had ordered the Darius Cosmic Revelations on the Switch, which is it's actually a remake of two games, Darius G Darius HD, and then a game called Darius Burst. They're like 3D games in the series, so I can't wait for those to show up.
Very
but
cool.
This new one that I got, Darius Extra version, is a physical Genesis cartridge.
Ooh.
So
I like that.
Yes. My only concern, I hope it's not I hope it's not the same Darius game that we have on the Genesis Mini. Though, however, if it is, it's cool to have it on a physical copy.
Yeah, no, you know me about owning physical copies of games.
I'm starting to fall in love now with these special edition physical copies. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, all right. Well, that's a really cool purchase.
Yeah.
I mean,
so
very cool.
And with that, it's pretty much...
And with that, you're broke.
Time to wrap... Yeah, honestly, I got to return my car. It's time to wrap things up.
All right, sounds good. No, this was a fun one. I liked talking about different video game endings. Yeah. And hopefully before the end of the year, we can get some more in.
Hopefully, right? That ending of the year is rapidly approaching.
Yes, it is.
And where can they find us and where can they comment?
All right. You can find us on Facebook.com /Retro Gamers Podcast. You can find us on Instagram at Retro Gamers Podcast. On Twitter at Retro Gamers Pod. You can watch us on YouTube. Just look for the Retro Gamers Podcast. Obviously, you can comment. You can subscribe there. You can listen to us wherever you listen to podcasts. You can leave us comments on is it still iTunes? I don't even know.
Apple Podcasts.
Apple Podcasts. I still call it iTunes because I'm old. You can leave us comments on Apple Podcasts or again wherever you listen. We appreciate the support and we thank you guys for listening. You can also email us if you want to talk to us or if you have a topic in mind that we may not have covered. You can email us at email@theretrogamers.com.
And don't forget, of course, now you can also watch us on Instagram television, IGTV. You can catch us there. And with that, Ant, have a good week.
You have a good week as well.
And I didn't mention it before. I'll talk about it more next week. You got a birthday this week. Happy birthday.
Shh. Nobody knows. Now everybody knows. Thank you very much.
And we will catch you everywhere next week on the Retro Gamers Podcast.